Hello, I'm Sister Marie Morgan, a member of the Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration, the sponsors of Franciscan Alliance.
And I'm Guy Valponi, a colleague from Franciscan Alliance.
At the heart of who we are at Franciscan lies our 5 Franciscan values: respect for life, fidelity to our mission, compassionate concern, joyful service, and Christian stewardship. Notice that the first of these values, the preeminent value, is respect for life. Life is a gift to be treasured and protected. Without life, obviously, we have no foundation for the other values that follow.
We define this preeminent value of respect for life by saying that the gift of life is so valued that each person is cared for with such joy, respect, dignity, fairness, and compassion that he or she is consciously aware of being loved. So why does human life need to be respected? In order to answer that, we first have to ask, what does it mean to be human?
All of us have a sense of what it means to be human, but when asked, we probably all would have a variety of different answers. Part of the reason for this is because this question can be approached through a variety of lenses: biological, psychological, cultural, philosophical, or even religious. Each of these disciplines has a lens through which to explore some truth about the human person. All of these play a part in our understanding here at Franciscan, especially the lens which is given to us through faith. In Scripture, God reveals 4 aspects of our humanity that defines who we are as human beings. First, we are created by God in His own image and likeness. Because of this, we have great dignity and worth simply because we exist. We see this image shine through in our love and relationships with one another, including our family, our friends, and our co-workers. The second fact is that we are created as a unity of body and soul, the body being material and the soul being spiritual. As humans, we have been given the ability to think, feel, and desire. We also have been given the gift of free will to make personal choices that allow us to choose the best good for ourselves and others, even though sometimes we may make mistakes or fall a little short. Even our shortcomings, however, become opportunities for hope and growth in the promise of redemption given to us through Jesus Christ. Third, we are created male or female. We complement each other in our differences in our families, our friendships, and even our work. Whether male or female, we share equal dignity with each other and reflect that beautiful image of the divine in our bodies and our souls. Finally, we are created to grow in knowledge, love, and friendship with God and with one another throughout our lives. This is what brings us joy and gives meaning to all of our actions, whether at work or at play. Together, we look forward in hope to be united with God and with one another forever in heaven. For us at Franciscan, all the other lenses of understanding of what it means to be human center on these 4 basic truths given to us in Scripture. It is important to note, however, that while we all have our different understandings that illuminate for us what it means to be a human person, we have to admit our common humanity is a mystery that unfolds within us and before us every day of our lives.
Nearly all religious traditions have some foundational stories which serve as sources of reflection and meaning-making for believers. These stories often help humanity come to understand the nature of the divine, the place of creation, and what it means to be human. In the Christian tradition, one such story is the opening chapter in the Bible from the book of Genesis. We would like to share this story with you.
In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God said that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky." So God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves, of every kind, with which waters swarm, and every winged bird of every kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things, and wild animals of the earth of every kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals of the earth of every kind, and the cattle of every kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground of every kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw everything that he made, and indeed it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day.
Christians of faith have read this story over the past 2,000 years and come away with certain truths. That God is creator of all, that creation is very good, that God gives creation life, that humans are not meant to be alone, that humans have responsibilities over creation, that human beings are sexed, male and female, and that human beings are made in God's image and likeness. In our last unit, we discussed the religious roots of Franciscan health's commitment to human dignity. As you might recall, the Genesis story offers to us a Christian understanding of what it means to be human, that God is creator of all, that creation is very good, that human beings are made in the image and likeness of God. It is this last truth we want to reflect on today. While many theories have been posed, a certain agreement has been reached by Christian believers that by virtue of being made in the image and likeness of God, humans have a certain innate dignity that is worthy of recognition, respect, protection, and promotion in every situation. For that reason, the Catholic Church teaches
whatever is opposed to life itself, such as any type of murder, genocide, abortion, euthanasia, or willful self-destruction. Whatever violates the integrity of the human person, such as mutilation, torments inflicted on body or mind, attempts to coerce the will itself, whatever insults human dignity, such as subhuman living conditions, arbitrary imprisonment, deportation, slavery, prostitution, the selling of women and children, as well as disgraceful working conditions. All these things and others of their like are infamies, meaning they are abusive injustices.
More recently, the Vatican released a document which explores 4 different ways dignity might be understood. We would like to take a look at these 4 understandings and how we see or experience them in the work that we do. First, existential dignity refers to the personal experience or sense of our own dignity. While we might know people in our lives who look like they have it all together, a perfect life, we can recognize that many of these individuals might be fighting a battle that we know nothing about.
For example, for those with mental illness, especially anxiety or depression, that can lead them to feel that their life is less than. For those who experience serious illness or disability, especially at the end of life, this can lead one to feel like a burden in their dependence on others. For those who struggle with addiction, it can lead them to feel like they no longer have control over their own actions. For those who live in abusive relationships, it can lead one to feel dehumanized and stripped of their dignity.
In both our roles as coworkers and healthcare professionals, we have a privileged role in remembering the existential dignity of everyone we meet and the hardships they face, of which we might not be aware.
Susan, age 54, was the only daughter of Arthur and Eleanor, both now deceased. While she loved her parents, both left a lasting impact on her. As a young girl, Susan was heavier than many of her female peers and her friends. Even though Eleanor never made comments about her daughter's weight, Susan often compared herself to her mom, who was a former Indiana State Fair queen. However, when Arthur, her father, was sober, he would often poke fun at Susan, but when he was drunk, he would outright ridicule her for her weight. As a result, Susan, who is barely considered slightly overweight, has spent much of her adult life trying different fad diets, weight loss programs, and medications. She has never felt comfortable, much less confident in her own body. How might we see existential dignity in Susan's story?
Next, social dignity refers to the quality of a person's living conditions. We know that many members of our human family live in undignified living conditions. Whether here or abroad, when we look at the world around us, we are confronted by individuals and families residing in substandard or unclean housing, lacking in access to food, clean air, or water. They live in areas without access to education, healthcare, or safe work, needed for them to grow and provide for themselves or their loved ones. Many are faced by discrimination, war, or natural disasters, and the threat of being forced to leave their homeland and seek safety and refuge elsewhere. These conditions are rightly called subhuman. Today in healthcare, we are acutely aware that the social conditions in which our patients and communities exist directly impact their health. Many social barriers exist which directly limit people's access to healthcare, such as housing, transportation, employment, and language proficiency. As a ministry committed to the health and well-being of our patients, we must attend to the social dignity in which people exist.
Once again, a story might help. In 2003, Guadalupe, age 16, and Jose, age 17, fled gang and cartel violence which had overtaken their city of Ciudad Juarez in northern Mexico. Without legal documentation nor proficiency in English, Jose found under-the-table work in construction, and Guadalupe managed to find a job as a cleaning lady, which allowed them to get a studio apartment on a 3-floor walk-up. In 2006, Guadalupe discovered she was pregnant, but because of their lack of insurance, Guadalupe went without prenatal care. She gave birth to a boy with spina bifida, a birth defect. While the hospital managed to care for the baby, at great expense, he experienced total paralysis of his legs. Guadalupe and Jose gave him the name Cristobal, meaning Christ bearer, for their little miracle. Without extended family to assist, Guadalupe had to carry little Cristobal on her back to her cleaning job sites every day for the next 5 years, until he could be enrolled in kindergarten at the local school. Their local church raised enough money for them to purchase a wheelchair, which Jose carried up and down the stairs every day for Cristobal. How do we see social dignity in the story of Guadalupe, Jose, and little Cristobal?
Next, moral dignity refers to the way individuals exercise their freedom. While all individuals are endowed with conscience and free will, we know that people can act in ways unbecoming of what it means to be human. When a person intentionally acts in a way that is devoid of love and care for others or the world around them, we can justifiably say that it seems they have lost any trace of their humanity. We rightly call this inhuman or inhumane. While this reality can be named, we in healthcare have recognized a professional responsibility to care for all people with competence, compassion, and respect, without prejudice, regardless of their past, what they have done, and what has led them to be patients today.
A final story. Indira, age 13, is brought to the ED by Sean, a man who claims to be her father, but doesn't seem to know basic information about Indira, such as her birth date and how to pronounce her name. Upon examination, Indira is found to have vaginal tearing, and there are large bruises on her upper thighs, torso, and neck. The nurse gently asks Indira, how did she receive her injuries? And Indira begins to cry. Eventually, Indira shares information that prompts the nurse to administer a SANE program. As the nurse was finishing the exam, Sean burst into the room, demanding to know what's taking so long. The nurse tries to calm the man, but he is insistent, bellowing, "It shouldn't take this long to sew her up." He demands that Indira get ready to go and announces that he's leaving in 5 minutes. Indira whispers to the nurse to hurry, as she doesn't want to get him upset. The nurse asks Indira if she would like to receive emergency contraception, and she whispers no. But the man, overhearing, forcefully says, "Yes, give her the pill," before looking at Indira and saying, "You'll be useless to me if you're pregnant." How do we see moral dignity in this story?
This brings us to our fourth and most important understanding: ontological or inherent dignity. By virtue of a person's very existence having been willed, created, and loved by God, we acknowledge a fundamental value that remains valid at all times, in all places, regardless of any circumstance a person might find themselves. As a Christian ministry, we honor this dignity from the moment of conception until natural death. It is this dignity that we are called to respect, protect, and promote. Nothing can take this inherent dignity away. Finally, it is because of this inherent dignity that this healthcare ministry exists today.
Now we know these 4 understandings of dignity can be a little abstract. For that reason, we would like to share with you a story that highlights how these different understandings of dignity can be seen in one person's life.
After graduation from high school, Craig enrolled in a small liberal arts college near home and signed up for classes that his advisor recommended. Craig had been a rather average student in high school, and a few weeks of classes clearly demonstrated the fact that he was inadequately prepared for college. However, instead of going back to his academic advisor or talking with his professors, he stopped attending classes and failed 5 of his 7 classes. As a result, he was placed on academic probation. Still reluctant to admit his inadequate preparation, he continued on this same academic course and quickly flunked out of college. Craig, always wanting to make his parents proud, slipped into a period of depression. He feared he was an embarrassment to his parents for not being a college graduate like they had. Considering himself a college flunky, He accepted a minimum wage job doing general labor at a small local manufacturing company. When he blew his car's head gasket, he didn't have transportation to work. He called in, but his supervisor refused to consider it an excused absence, and Craig was terminated after 3 days of being AWOL. Craig got his car fixed, but didn't have any luck finding a new job. His savings were quickly depleted, and one morning he found an eviction notice taped to his door. Feeling like this was the final straw, Craig went to a bar and told the bartender he wanted to drink until his problems went away, which he attempted to do until the bartender refused to serve him at 2:30 a.m. The bartender offered to call a cab for Craig, but Craig said he'd call a friend, which he didn't do. Craig headed home, intentionally avoiding what he thought would be the busy roads. Nevertheless, he saw a stoplight too late to stop, plowing into a small compact car. The compact car was driven by Cade Bell, the valedictorian of the senior class, who was on his way home from a youth function at his church. He was killed upon impact. Craig was arrested immediately and was devastated the next morning when he came to understand what had happened as a result of his decision to drive home drunk. He immediately expressed the wish to die and was put on suicide watch. Craig wanted to simply plead guilty, but his attorney strongly advised against it. Craig agreed to plead not guilty and go through a trial. At the trial, he was confronted by Cade Bell's mother, who immediately after the accident had been seething with anger and publicly proclaimed that she wanted her son's killer to be given the death penalty. But it softened considerably in the months since Cade's death. After the funeral, Cade's government teacher had given her an essay that Cade had written for mock Congress, in which he had emphatically argued for the abolishment of the death penalty. As a result of her son's essay and much prayer, Cade's mother had come to forgive Craig. She spoke eloquently and passionately, urging the judge to show leniency and compassion. Craig, on the other hand, begged his attorney to ask the judge for life imprisonment, saying he deserved a miserable life since he had robbed Cade and his family, friends, and community of his very promising life.
So we can ask, where do we see existential dignity in the story? While it might be hard to ever fully know how Craig felt at any given moment, we can find ways to empathize with him. As a young man, Craig likely felt shame, perhaps about himself or for letting his parents down when he failed out of college. He used the word flunky to describe himself, which likewise reflects this. Similarly, we can think about the stress and sense of loss Craig experienced when he was fired from his job. Perhaps most significantly, we can recognize the depression and suicidality Craig feels for the tragic harm he caused to Cade and Cade's family.
Craig's social dignity can be seen in a couple of different parts of the story. While it sounds like Craig came from a middle-class American family, he seems to have been unprepared academically in order to pursue a college education. Perhaps during his year of study, he accumulated student loans, which ate a portion of his monthly budget once he got his minimum wage job at the local manufacturing company. The loss of his job as a result of his limited transportation could have contributed to his difficulty making ends meet and to finding a new job. Although justifiably imprisoned, we can ask about how incarceration impacts the dignity of those in prison.
Likely the most obvious of the four, Craig's choice to get drunk and drive intoxicated, putting many individuals at risk on his way home, ultimately resulted in the death of an innocent person, can be understood in terms of moral dignity. The tragic impact to Cade and Cade's family is permanent.
Even though we can say inherent or ontological dignity is present throughout the story, the choice of Cade's mother to forgive Craig and to advocate on his behalf for leniency can be understood as a testament to and defense of Craig's inherent dignity. This decision of hers likewise reflects Cade's own belief that the death penalty violates the inherent dignity of those convicted of serious crimes. While each of us can agree or disagree with this view, we can still recognize the profound meaning of Cade's mother's decision to forgive.
Each of you, when you joined Franciscan Alliance, learned about our mission and our core values. The value of respect for life is derived from our belief in the inherent dignity of all. Respect for life requires that we attend to the various ways individuals, both our colleagues and our patients, experience moral, social, and existential dignity. We appreciate each of you for taking the time to view and reflect on the Christian meaning of human dignity and how it undergirds our core values, most specifically, respect for life. In the coming months, you will receive further education related to Franciscan Alliance's Respect for Life program, our approach to diversity and unconscious bias.
As you take those courses, we ask you to keep these core concepts of dignity in your mind. How might the patient or colleague before you be struggling in a way you don't even know? How might they experience challenges to their social dignity or be impacted by their living conditions? How does our failure to see the beauty of humanity's God-given diversity undermine our own moral dignity? How do the biases we all have, conscious or unconscious, impact our patients, our colleagues, and the communities we're privileged to serve?
So on behalf of the Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration
And Franciscan Alliance,
we thank you for taking our core values to heart and through your service, bringing our mission alive.